Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. When we left you last time, this was the final result of our bar top makeover. Today is just going to be a little update to show you where we are now and what we've done. So stay tuned. First thing we needed to do was to create the end pieces for our stone island. We used the same technique for our rock faced edge and poured the epoxy over top. The next challenge was the largest epoxy pour I've done to date, 14 feet by 4 foot. That is a ton of epoxy. This would be the front section of our stone island. I wanted it to have a natural look with flowing veins, but the colors to match the top of the bar top. We used Loctite premium construction adhesive to secure the front and side panels to the island. We used blue painter's tape just to hold it there until it dried. The next step in the process was the actual countertop itself, the one with the sink and the faucets in it. After building the countertop, we did our 2 coats of primer and paint, and now it's time to put our undertones. So now we're using our spray paint and we're matching the same colors and the same tones that we had on our bar top. Again, with the rock face edges, you want to make sure you get a lot of that color on the sides so that it doesn't just show through as a black slab. This is another huge piece here. It's a little over 14 foot, but it's only 39 inches wide, so it's a little less wide than the front piece we did, but it is a little longer, so it's going to be another big pour. And we have our rock face edges around the outside and also on the inside where the sink's going to sit. Okay, after your spray paint sets up and dries, now it's time to do our color coat. This is the first coat that we put down that we actually work our colors into. Now after you mix it for your 2 minutes and pour it out, you're going to want to use your trowel to get it spread around your board. Try not to push too much over the edges right now, as you're just trying to get it spread out. When you get towards the end, then we can force it over the edges. Now that you have it troweled out, the next step is to use your chop brush and chop it all in. Again, this does multiple things. It will get all your air bubbles out. It also helps get uneven areas that you might not have got, and it breaks surface tension, which will allow this to spread out evenly. After you chop it, that's when you grab your blowtorch and you want to go over the top of it a few inches off and just slowly go back and forth and start popping the bubbles if you have any. There's usually a few small ones. Now it's time to start incorporating your colors. Here you can use your popsicle stick, your spray paint, your pre-mixed epoxy with coloring in it. A lot of mine, I'll use spray paint to tint my colors. I do have some metallics and some dye that I got from Stone Coat countertops, but 90% of the time it's going to be a spray paint with a metallic additive in it. And here what we're doing is we're just using our base coats, our undertones that we put on there as kind of a guide to go ahead and start adding our color. And again, we're trying to match the bar top that's already in, so we're kind of sticking with that pattern there. And with the stone coat epoxy, I'm not really worried about not having enough time to do this project. The work time with the stone coat epoxy is by far the best I've seen. You've had plenty of time to get these big projects done. You don't want to take, your sweet time, but you have plenty of time to get everything done. Just keep moving. We've came back here and added some extra veins that we did an exotic pour just to give it a little more character, and since it is such a wide area compared to the bar top, we want to fill up some of that negative space there, give it some color in there. We're going to go ahead and torch it again at this point. When you torch it now, you're actually moving the epoxy and moving the colors. They start to meld together. It blends in, looks a little more natural. You can also use a heat gun, which we do use also, but the blowtorch tends to move it a lot faster. All we're doing here is using some excess epoxy that we have in the bucket just to make sure that our edges are covered with that rock face edge. It's got plenty of epoxy on it. Here's an example of using a heat gun to get that pour there, to mix the colors, to blend them in and get them moving there. Get it look like more like a vein. Here we're just adding some black fracture lines. Again, takes up some of that negative space, takes these straight lines off of your eye, gives it a more natural look. Once that layer dried, we went ahead and sanded it with our 220 grit sandpaper, and then used acetone and wiped it down. And now what we're doing is we're putting our top coat on there. Now this is going to be a clear coat, and on the bar top this was our final coat. But on this one here, we're actually going to put the ultimate top coat on it, so there'll be another layer on top of this one. But this is going to be our clear coat, so the same way you mix it for 2 minutes, pour it out, trowel it out, and then we'll chop it, and then we'll use our propane torch. When you look at it from the side, you can have a much better view if you got all the bubbles out, if there happened to be something that got in it. Once you're happy that you've got all the bubbles out of it and there's no trash or flies or anything in it, then it's just time for dry. It's going to take 24 hours before we can come back and put the ultimate top coat on it. So we'll let this sit and we'll come back the next day. Now again, if you wanted to keep the glossy top coat, after this pour and it dries, you're ready to install. This would be the final step. But since we're adding the ultimate top coat on it, which is a lot more scratch resistant, it adds a little texture to it. It doesn't show as many fingerprints, so we're going to put that coat on here, and especially since it's going to be right there in the kitchen, we'll see how it does. Now mixing the top coat's a little different. This is a 2-to-1 ratio, and you also want to add a cap full of water to it. The water helps thin it out and helps you be able to get it on fast enough. You also do not want to use any electric mixer with this. You just want to do it the old-fashioned way with a paint stir stick, trying not to introduce any extra bubbles in this. Now this mixture will set up fast, so do not mix it until you are ready to pour and put it on. In less than 15 minutes, this will be set up. You're also going to see us use a 2-roller system. There's going to be one wet roller and one dry roller. So you roll it on thick and heavy, and you'll roll it back and forth, try to get your lap lines as even as possible, and then you'll use your light roller, your dry roller, just to go over the top of it real lightly and pull any excess off of it. You don't even have to push down hard. You just very easily hold that roller and just roll it right over the top of it. Same as with the epoxy, don't forget to get your edges. Make sure you get all the way around the edges and dry roll those as well. Now, unlike the epoxy, this stuff sets up very quickly, so you want to stay on your horse and keep going with this stuff. Here at the end, it started getting really thick on me, and I was just doing this small piece. Once it dries, this is the finish that you're left with. We went ahead and rolled on our waterproofing compound since this was going to be in the sink area and the dishwasher area. When that was dry, now it's time for the fun part, the installation. Now you'll notice that we cut up the old countertop and put it down as a base. We just use that for something to pull, we can screw through the bottom up into this to hold it down. Instead of wasting the boards, we just use them, repurpose them. So then we added our sink back in, and our faucet and our soap dispenser back in, and I'll give you a final look around the entire project. The new countertop with everything installed, secured from the bottom up. Again, this is the matte finish. This is the scratch resistant finish. And as you work around to the side, you'll see the shiny glossy edges of the side piece and the bar top. Again, this does not have the ultimate top coat on it. And you see the difference in the matte and the sheen. I do like the glossy finish. I just don't like the fingerprints everywhere, and it is not as scratch resistant as the other piece. But overall, I think it looks beautiful. I think it came out great. And again, still got a few more countertops to go, but appreciate you watching. Like and subscribe.